Hello, today is Monday, September 3rd, 2018. I am a person with a face and a mouth speaking to you through a computer screen, and we're talking about the nature of the times, September 2018. And it is a back to reality, back to business, back to the grind type of period we're going through indeed. There's a lot of focus in the element of Earth these weeks. At the end of August, Mars stationed in Capricorn. Coming up this Wednesday, the 5th, we have Mercury entering the sign of Virgo. We have Saturn stationing in his own sign of Capricorn on September 6th, and this approaching weekend we have a new moon in Virgo on Sunday, September 9th. So Saturn is stationing at 2 degrees of his own sign of Capricorn. Yes, these years, 2018 through 2020, are Saturnarian years. And particularly at the beginning of September, we can really be getting to know this key astrological figure, his flavor, his feeling, and his place in reality. And Saturn's place is gravity. Saturn holds us down to this earth. Saturn holds us in our body. Saturn deals with limitations. We are all held into limiting forms. Saturn is obligation. We all have duties. We all have roles. We all have expectations as human beings. Most of us have jobs where we have to make money in order to survive. Saturn deals with physical security, survival, providing of resources, limitations. And Saturn is the planet of mastery in many sense that really initiates us into being mature, capable, qualified human beings. Okay, so Saturn is that real world capability, and coming out of real world experiences, we gain the qualification to give practical guidance to others. Well, I like to correlate Saturn sometimes to being like the mean high school teacher that really challenges us in order to pass their class, and we typically don't enjoy going to their class all the time, but when we finally do graduate and leave that final exam room, Saturn gives us a funny look with the twinkle in his eye that says, "Don't you know I did all this for you? I wanted you to see how strong you are, how much you could overcome, and now facing the challenges that I have given you, you can go out there in the world and achieve and do and construct so much, being more so unfazed." So yeah, we can be anticipating some challenges, some obstacles. We may not be going as fast as we want to go, but this can also be an enormously productive time. Yeah, this is a time to initiate new projects, to really bust it out, to put our head down and put the grind through, in which case we really are capable of so much. So this is enormously productive time, but we do need to keep our chin up. Yes, these can be some considerably dark feeling weeks. This is a considerably dark period to be alive on our planet from a long-term perspective. But again, this is not a punishment. This is not a failure. This is not a loss. There is also so many opportunities in these situations for us to gain greater control. And so really look into your own birth charts. Any planets at the first degrees of the cardinal signs in particular, and in particular the first degrees of Capricorn, are really going to be receiving these Saturnarian challenges. But again, there's also the opportunity to overcome these obstacles, to achieve a new level of personal strength and capability. Now, Saturn can also sometimes deal with oppression. So this is not saying, oh, we just need to comply or we just need to conform. Changes are sometimes necessary. As we'll talk about, this can also be a highly revolutionary and reactive period. But we do need to function in the real world, and there is a great opportunity for us to refine and purify and rectify how we are functioning to find our three-dimensional practical roles and improve them, to push them to the next level and really take them into something better than what they've been before. So we're toughening up, but we also need to balance all of this maturing, all of this toughening, so much work to do, such little time to play, you know? When I think of The Shining, this is what Jack writes again and again and again, you know, is no time to play, you know, so much work to do, makes Jack go insane and go on a murder spree, right? So we need to, in many respects, be our own parent to ourselves these weeks. We can't necessarily expect the world to give us a break or a shortcut. We do have to be mature and strong in order to overcome these obstacles, but we also need to really be careful to make sure that we ourselves are not becoming our own oppressor. You know, this is really key, especially in this day and age, which has a pretty powerful Capricorn-Saturn distortion. Meaning that most of us are raised via our cultures and societies to put physical security, our jobs, our work, our paychecks as a number one priority in this mass production culture and civilization that we live in. And so being our own parent for ourselves is not necessarily being a parent for ourselves the way our parents were to us when we were children, right? We're not repeating oppression here. We have the opportunity to not only be our own paternal guidance, rooting for us. Yes, you can do this, and I'm proud of you, and you're doing a great job, and give yourself solid pats on the back, even if other people aren't recognizing everything that you're doing, because you are doing great work. I'm proud of you. You're strong. Keep going. You got this. You know, that's the Saturn Capricorn paternal wisdom. But we have to keep that in balance with the lunar Cancer maternal wisdom, which says, but if you don't really feel well, be sure to take an hour to rest and take a nice long bath after a good day's work and just dissolve all of that frustration and oppression and so much to do, such little time. We all do need to take breaks, and we need that internal voice going on for us as well. It's okay that you're feeling sad. It's okay if you feel heavier or depressed. I'm going to say this is a period where we can be going through this temporary season, and it's not a sign that you are doing anything wrong or you're a failure or you're unhealthy. This is a very common misconception, all pervasive in our current world, is that sadness, depression, and heaviness is a problem. It's a symptom of us doing something wrong and changes need to happen. Not necessarily. Depression actually is a natural distancing from the world when the world starts to lose its appeal and flavor, and we start to go more introverted and disconnect and take time to slow down and process internally and digest all of these really deep feelings. And so depression is actually very healthy and can be very helpful. It's like a creative jet fuel. Let's, remove ourselves from the typical game and, how we're supposed to show up and what we're supposed to feel and what we're supposed to act. And it's this time of really determining, well, what's most important to us? And how are we functioning in the world that's honoring the balance between our inner emotional needs and our outer physical security needs? And so asteroid Ceres, the mother asteroid, to deal a lot with, again, the Cancer maternal voice, is moving into the sign of Libra this Thursday, September 6th, and then is going to square Saturn this next Tuesday, September 11th. So there's this real balance between nurturing, sharing with other people in creative ways, and doing the work and accomplishing what we need to, and being strong and having that balance of self-nourishment and encouragement by being our own parent and potentially changing how we do relationships and the game. So, for example, men are traditionally brought up to carry a lot of the burdens ourselves. Men were the one to go off to wars and were originally in the factories, and then we come home and we just kind of ignore our feelings. And there's this sense that we have to do everything our own. Well, that's a major key, is that we don't carry that burden of having to just do everything on our own or carry it all on our shoulders and not speak about our deeper emotions, because there's a great propensity that this type of self-sacrifice is only going to blow up in our faces later on. And so we also have an approaching Venus retrograde Venus is going to move into the sign of Scorpio Sunday, September 9th, and then she's going to station later on in October, on the 5th of October, at 10 degrees of Scorpio. Well, Venus going into Scorpio, this is another change that's really going into the real. Venus in Scorpio's more confrontational, more realistic about whether or not we're achieving our true, deeper, hidden emotional/intimacy needs in our relationships, and actualizing our deeper passions and soul's desires. And are we actualizing our passions? Are we able to talk and share about these things? Are we able to meet one another in relationships? And because Venus is just entering the shadow of her forthcoming retrograde, there's a very good chance that these things will not totally be in order. So there is a key here, and there is a need for us to be real about these issues in relationship. And Jupiter's been in Scorpio this whole year, which has been a year of what? Disclosure. What was previously swept under the rug coming to the surface. All of these dynamics with sexual scandals and women's rights and the oppression of minorities. This is like the bullshit, the collective bullshit, Scorpio, that was previously swept under the rug that's now being exposed with Jupiter in Scorpio. Well, now Venus joining Jupiter in Scorpio, I encourage us all to be as realistic, as honest and true with our deeper feelings, and start to get this more on the surface sooner rather than later, particularly those of us in intimate relationships, but everybody's in relationships, whether it be our associates, our friends, our family. We all have relationships. Relationships is a necessary part of our own evolution as a species. Now, next week, Venus is going to square Mars. Well, actually, that's this weekend, the 8th. But then next week, we have Venus coming into an opposition with Uranus on the 12th. The moon is going to come into the Scorpio on the 12th, oppose Uranus, square Mars. This is a very intense T-square. Next week, the week of the 12th, this can be explosive passions, resentments, these feelings that may be swept under and swept under and swept under, and I'll just shut up about that, I'll just take care of that, oh, that bothers me, but whatever, I'll let it go. These things can erupt if we're just not acknowledging our deeper emotional needs as well as working out these dynamics in relationships. Venus in Scorpio is very intimate. It's like Venus can also deal with money, how we're sharing our resources. Is it in a fair and equal, balanced way? Is there need for adjustments to be happening here? And so let's get real before reality gets us. That's kind of the goal and the intention of these first weeks of September. There is an opportunity for us to be realistic in a way that allows us to align with our deeper goals. By seeing this is possible, I can move this next baby step in this direction. This is achievable. We can accomplish these things in our relationships. I am dealing with these Saturnarian challenges. I only have a limited amount of money. I do want to do something fun. I do want to go explore and learn some new things. How can we practically and realistically do it? Now, in this way, this is a way for us to come out of any ruts and to initiate new patterns. This is about long-term perspective goals. What money do we need to start putting into a separate account? So that way, after so many months, we will reach this level and we'll be able to do this thing. It is this type of practical, realistic, one step at a time, careful measuring and distinguishing. Mercury moves into his own sign of Virgo on the 5th. And the day before, asteroid Pallas Athena, this very brilliant, intellectual goddess of wisdom, also moves into the Earth sign of Virgo, and they conjoin on September 6th. Well, Mercury in Virgo is very analytical, very perceptive, notices all of the details, can measure, this is what is possible, and this is what's not really working, as well as this mental simplification, it's like really getting to business. This last moon cycle, August was Leo season. The last new moon was in Leo, followed by a full moon in Pisces, and it's been dreamy. It's been sexual. There's been all of this warm energy, and now the new moon is closing into Virgo. And it's like, okay, how to refine this into an actual process, an actual procedure that is practical, that is grounded in the real world, and this is how we're going to do it. Mercury in Virgo wants to lay the schedule, wants to plan the routine, wants to change our diet so that way we have the energy at this time and we can take a nap at this time and we can put in the work on these days and we can take some days off on these days. So again, we need to be our own parent. We need to be realistic. We need to be grown up. But there's also the opportunity for us to really lay this foundation that also works and allows us to achieve our dreams. So let's talk about this new moon before my camera blows up from the rain. This new moon on September 9th, 2018 is at 17 degrees of Virgo. This new moon is opposite to Neptune retrograde, trine to Pluto, and sextile to Jupiter. Neptune retrograde is actually about being realistic. Neptune is opposite to the sun, coming up. I can't even see my notes now. Everything's running together. Oh man, I guess this is the Saturnarian challenge I'm faced with right now. Anyways, Neptune retrograde is like when the fog machine gets turned off. This is the ending of fantasy. This is the ending of naivety. This can also be an opportunity to pull ourselves out of addictions or what's unrealistic or what's not really serving us anymore. I'm just going to hold this backpack over the camera so I don't destroy the camera. Alright, so what am I saying here? We can pull ourselves out of a rut these days. A little bit of a shower does a good amount of cleaning. Virgo is about purification. It's about removing the distractions. It's about removing what gets in the way of us being capable, clean, focused individuals. So here's the grand opportunity with this new moon. And again, this is a great opportunity to plan new schedules, new structures, new routines. This Mars station direct is going to move into Aquarius on September 10th. Highly revolutionary, exciting action time. We do need to channel this revolutionary energy in a productive way that's not just declaring war on other people. And guess what? I think that theme in itself, hey, we're going to blame other people, we're going to blame other nations, other religions. I think that we're going to see more and more of that in the world this forthcoming year. We need to be really careful about this. This is about refining ourselves. This is about improving ourselves. What we don't like in the world, what pisses us off, it's okay. We can be pissed off. We can not like what we're experiencing and seeing in the world these weeks, but let's use that as jet fuel, as creative inspiration to do something constructive and productive, to bring something new into the world that we're not currently seeing. This is a year that's initiating leaders and spiritual warriors. If we actually stand up and initiate what's most important to us, chances are people will value similar things, but we're waiting for the leaders. We're waiting for those who are courageous and strong enough to speak up and defend themselves, their values, and what this world really needs. Also, I'm going to say in terms of addictions and pulling ourselves out of any ruts, unhealthy relationships, unhealthy patterns, this Saturnarian period, again, where things can seem more bland or more tasteless or more heavy, can also be used in our advantage this way. An addiction is something that typically ends when it becomes too painful. It's tasteless. It's not enjoyable anymore. I notice how much this hurts me. I notice how unpleasant this is. And so, let's use this momentum to keep moving. Make sure you don't just go into a downward spiral with heaviness. Keep moving, keep your chin up, stay active. Think of the next project and start putting it together and start moving forward. It's a looking forward without looking back type of period in order to stay afloat. And again, this can be used in our advantage out of getting out of any old stagnant patterns that are just seriously losing their flavor. And it's just like, you know what? I can fill this old, rusty, crumbling thing in with something that feels a lot more empowering, a lot more inspiring. And so this movement, Virgo, is just one little tiny baby step in front of the next. You don't have to take on the entire world now or today, but plan it out, schedule it out, and just one little baby step at a time. This can be an enormously productive period. So I'm so much wishing you all the best. I'm going to reconnect from the home computer before I get swept away downstream. So much love to you and yours, and good luck if there's any heavy downpours in your area in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, so a real quick recap, since it's nice to be able to think straight when you have a little bit of stability going on. This new moon in Virgo, opposite to Neptune, this is about dreaming. This is about making our goals come real. But again, it's this balance between Virgo, which is practical steps forward, and Neptune, which is our be-all, end-all goals. And so, this Mars, final degree of Capricorn, new moon in Virgo, it says do dream, do start some creative projects. The sextile to Jupiter, we can make money. We can overcome these challenges using our brilliance, using our human ingenuity, but maybe not so much just, making a beautiful vision board and then leaving it, as much as dreaming the goals, trying it out, heading in a new direction, trial and error, one baby step at a time, rectifying, polishing, making sure that it can work just right. And this trine to Pluto says there's a lot of potential for continued transformation in a way that can really allow us to step into these roles that really function. Virgo is about service. It's about apprenticeship. It's really about giving ourselves to the process of learning and refining and polishing and rectifying, so that way we can be the best that we can be. Now again, this next week, we've got a powerful week ahead of us. So I want to take a look again. When Venus moves into Scorpio on the 9th, she begins to form an opposition to Uranus, all right? And on the 11th, 12th, 12th in particular, Moon moves into Scorpio, joining Venus and Jupiter in Scorpio, T-square between Mars and the 1st degree of Aquarius, squaring Uranus. Again, this is highly reactive, instinctual energy. This is a time where we can start feeling like, I'm outgrowing this relationship, or I'm outgrowing these people, and I can do it better on my own, or I should just leave my old home and my own dimension, behind. Uranus and Mars at the 1st degree of Aquarius, ruled by that Uranus, can get very excited, very rebellious, and can potentially get a little ahead of itself. So the key here is, when we have instinctual reactions, whenever we do feel rebellious, it does happen for good reason, But before we dump our partner or abandon everybody and find ourselves halfway to Las Vegas before we realize what we're doing, we need to have the space, the time to settle down, That Scorpio dynamic can feel very claustrophobic, and then the instinctual reaction is to push it all away. So I encourage us to find those healthy boundaries, that spaciousness where we can reflect and calm down and cool off a little bit before re-entering the relationship, or before pointing the finger and blaming everything on the other person. Again, this Venus retrograde is essentially going to take us now through almost the end of the year. So there's a lot of time for us to improve our relationships, to transform our relationships, to transform how we are honoring our own values and sharing these things with others. This can be a very creative time, and these creative challenges and tensions invite creative solutions that we will be exploring and discovering through the months to come. So again, wishing you all the best. For those of you who would like to stick around and learn more astrology or have more personal interaction with me, I encourage you to please join my Patreon page. If you feel like keeping in touch with me, it's a really excellent way to do so, and we're forming this new online community. So that way, like minds and creative folk like yourself can come together if and only if this is the type of thing you're interested in. So again, wishing you absolutely all the best to you and your beloveds on your continued journey. Take care.